morning, Mal.
Good morning, Fleur. How are you?
I'm good. Did you have a lovely Christmas?
Yes, I did. How about yourself?
Yes, I did. Thank you. It was nice and relaxing. And I'm now looking forward to what next year has in store. In fact, I'm quite excited. But do you think people end up being excited about the new year? Or do you think we're kind of apprehensive after everything we've been through?
I think we're both. Certainly the recent years have made us more apprehensive because everything seems to be changing so quickly. People are trying to get their grip on what they can stand on that's firm. That's true in politics. It's certainly true in technology, which is my area. So much change, it can feel overwhelming at times.
Absolutely. And like you say, we've been through so much. And I think humans want routine. Humans like to be in the know. We don't really like the unknown. So it's great that we're talking to you. And you mentioned that you kind of go into technology, and we will touch upon that in a second. But how does being a futurist work? When did you declare yourself that I can predict things?
Well, it's not primarily about prediction. That's sort of the outcome at the end. It's really about trying to understand the shifts that are occurring in society, whether it's in terms of generational change or ethical change, social values, technology, and then to work out how that affects other things and what it might mean if we continue on that line over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. So the predictive part really is the part right at the end. The rest is trying to understand something deeper that's going on in society. And for me, it started, 3 decades ago with generational research and just grew from there and broadened out to take in a whole bunch of other things.
Mm. So what can we expect for next year? I mean, you kind of look at the tech side of it, but I'll take anything that you've got, Mal. What can we expect?
Well, I think this year, talking about technology, because technology is really a reflection of other things going on in our values too. So looking at tech is more than just about tools, and it's a blend of the exhilarating and the unsettling if you look forward. For example, this year we're going to hear a lot more about neural implants. People have often asked, if you can have a wearable on your wrist, why can't you wear one on your brain to help with things like memory loss? And companies like Elon Musk's Neuralink says it wants to start human trials this year. They aim to place thousands of small electrodes inside the brain to read signals from our cells and transmit them to computers so that they can analyze the problem and help solve it. So it might help solve memory loss in some people. It might help sight-challenged people to get some of their sight back. It might help conditions like addiction or depression. But of course, there's a downside too, and the challenge for us is that when you start using something in your brain as a lifestyle enhancer, it could mean that we're seeing invasive surgery for non-essential reasons, and that might increase the risk of harm to otherwise healthy people. And there's the danger too of potential hacking. Any computerized device can, in theory, be hacked. So we'd need to have some pretty tight regulation on that sort of thing, but we will hear more about it this year because of Elon Musk and others.
Wow. There are downsides to things, with any kind of electronic device, like you have said, it can have a risk of someone hacking it, and we don't want that to be happening in the brain.
No, we don't. And it's another example, really, of where our technological capacity develops way faster than our codes of ethics develop. So over the last few years, we've seen a lot with artificial intelligence people. Some people are quite concerned about that. We just need to make sure that we've got recognized codes of ethics that govern the development of these things so that we can keep up with the tech. For example, here's another example, centrally governed digital currencies. There's been a lot of talk this year, of course, about Bitcoin and others and the volatility of digital cryptocurrencies. Well, the Chinese government is one of the first to push towards a fully cashless economy. And they're testing in one region of China now a central bank digital currency, which is something that takes all the blockchain and other technologies that drive crypto today and brings them under government control. So you'd have something like a digital pound or a digital dollar. And it might allow people to experience all the convenience of digital currencies, no cash, without the volatility of crypto money. The downside, again, is that governments would get access to all of our consumer-generated data. Every time we shop, we're generating data. And governments, if they were so inclined, could use that to evaluate our choices and even perhaps reshape behavior. The Chinese Communist Party is trying to do that now with its citizen point system, which if it links that to a currency, might limit people's ability to buy and sell if they don't behave in government-approved ways. Now, China's an extreme, I know, but there are other governments in the world now looking at this technology, and again, we need to make sure our ethics keep up with our technological ability.
This is exactly what I wanted to touch upon. Like, I think technology is great and living in a digital age has its perks, but I think that sometimes we let it run away with us, and the ethical side does need to be considered, because it's not always good to live in a technology digital world. It helps, but I think that sometimes we use a bit too much of it. What do you say to that, Mal?
No, I think you're right. I think technology shouldn't be allowed to define us. It should serve us, but not define us. There was a famous education pioneer, media education pioneer called John Culkin, who famously said years ago, we shape our tools and thereafter our tools shape us. So, we have to be careful that we remain in control of the process. And I was thinking about that this morning when it comes to the war in Russia, in Ukraine. We're going to hear this year more and more about another area of technology that does have concerns, and that is what we call lethal autonomous weapon systems, or LAWS laws. They're basically fully autonomous machines. The machines that can make decisions on the battlefront for themselves. So, it's using artificial intelligence to identify, select, and engage a target without any human input. And we will hear more about this year because there are a number of governments, including the UK, the US, and Russia, that are looking at the development of this. It's a good example of where our ethics are falling behind. And it asks huge questions like, if we take on machines to do the fighting in wars completely, would we distance ourselves even further from the battlefield and therefore distort our sense of human value? Who would be responsible if a bot makes a mistake, does the wrong thing? Would an unscrupulous politician or general say, look, it's not my fault, it's just the machine? And would killing people become even cheaper than it is now financially, which makes it easy to justify these things?
Well, it's always interesting to hear from what you say. You've mentioned big ideas as well, Mal. Is there anything you expect us to be using in our everyday lives next year?
Yeah, I think that there'll be more apps for helping us control how much is known about us online, how much is known about us in this so-called surveillance economy. Apps that will help us update our data health in the same way that fitness apps today track physical health. So they become like personal data architects that help us design the type of online presence we want to have by tracking and limiting the data, all the data about us online that we share with third parties. And I think they'll catch on because people want to feel like I am not defined by my data online. You might know all my data, but you don't know me. I think we're going to see social media change this year too, Fleur. I think people will head away from the big platforms toward platforms that aggregate communities where the rules on content are set and enforced by, if you like, user collectives instead of these individual moguls, these techno kings, as we call them, the heads of big tech companies. So I think those two things will be big. The apps that protect personal data and changes in the way we engage social media.
Thank you so much for speaking to me, Mal. I wish you a very happy 2023.
And you, Fleur. Nice to speak with you.
Thank you. That was Futurist Mal Fletcher giving us the lowdown on what we can expect in the new year in terms of technology and the digital age.